So today we got a Facebook status. We gonna get into it. Before we do, please put a like on the vid. Let me read it. The man says, hustle culture got our women wanting to be business owners instead of wives. So that is a status. Let's go to the comments. So on the first page, what he says is failing to realize that family is the highest level of business. That's what he responded to his own shit with. We will move on to the first woman. She says, marrying for love is what got our community where it is now. Not able to pass anything down to the kids and making them start from zero. Marriage is a business contract, really. It's all about perspective, though. Nothing wrong with being a CEO than a wife, in my opinion. Meditation emoji. His response to that is, if marriage is a business, which I already said, then wouldn't that mean anything other than becoming a wife would be just hustling backwards or just be hustling backwards? So a lot of people laughed at that. So if you notice, there's going to be a trend in reactions. They disagree with him. They laugh at anybody that agrees with him. It's just laughable. And when it comes to what they say in support of XYZ, you know, their stance, it's all good. It's all Gucci. Now, this is the thing. I'm going to address this very quickly. All I'm going to say is this, man, because people say like marriage is a business and all that stuff. And she said, this is what got our community there in the first place. She's talking about the black community. Listen, there are a lot of things that got the black community where it is. And one of the things that you cannot point a finger at is marriage, because a lot of these chicks out here right now, it took a lot for me to not say who's. A lot of these chicks out here are not getting married anymore. They're not getting married anymore. A lot of them aren't marryable. They're not marriage material. Actually, when we had two-parent households, that was better for the kids. That was better for the kids' future and things like that. A lot of college graduates and stuff like that, you could find the statistics or something like that. I'm pretty sure they're going to come from two-parent households, the majority of them. So listen, marriage is not the issue at all. There are a bunch of other issues that I'm not going to get into because I got a lot to read. But I will say it's funny how the black community looks at marriage, because they just think that, oh, look at the, Arabs and the Asians and the Indians. They come together, and just because they're married, they come over here and they build businesses and da-da-da-da-da, mom and pop shops. And then the kids go off to be doctors and XYZ and all that shit. They look at shit like that. So when you look at black people, especially black women, they think that when you get married, you're supposed to come together and make a business together, and like an actual business, and you guys are supposed to run a business together. Now that could work. That could work. But as far as that, that's not what most couples are going to do. That's not ideal. That doesn't automatically mean that the business is going to be successful. You guys might not even be good at working together. You guys might not even be good at having a professional relationship, and it just has to stay romantic. The next comment says, many men are seeking business partners, not wives or life partners. I think this is bullshit, because we don't care about your money. And when it comes to 50-50, women care about not having to pay for shit. That's all that really is. That I see right through it. Men are not really looking for business partners. She would also, in a different context, probably call this a roommate because she's going 50-50 or whatever. But anyways, let's continue. Now, this is one that the majority of people liked. I have not read it, so I'm going to read it and respond to it. So it says, is it hustle culture or the fact that people can use financial advantages to abuse people? This happens to children frequently. Self-sufficiency is something most women seek so that they won't be abused or mistreated, just like a child who has been abused and ran away from home. Financial independence really helps to build generational wealth in a family. I also feel women desire to have legacy, which has nothing to do with family, but leaving a good mark on the world outside of blood connection. So let's dissect this like a frog in biology class. She says the fact that people can use financial advantages to abuse people. What I would like to know, because she didn't get specific, is abuse in what way? I am familiar with, physical abuse. I am familiar with verbal abuse. I am not familiar with financial abuse. So, boom, let's get into it a little bit because I did a little bit of Google and we're going to talk very quickly about this. So, economic abuse is what came up. Economic abuse is a form of abuse when an abusive person has control over the victim's access to economic resources, which diminishes the victim's capacity to support themselves and forces them to depend on the perpetrator financially. Let's read some more. So after that, I needed examples. So I went and found an article, How to Spot Financial Abuse in a Relationship, from Barry Mind or whatever. But it says exploiting your resources. When a dating partner or spouse uses or controls the money that you have earned or saved, they're exploiting your resources. So then they go into some examples. So then when you go under that, it says controlling or spending your money, ruining your credit history, feeling entitled to your money or assets, interfering with your finances. And when you go through the whole article, it has a bunch of stuff like this. And what it comes down to is somebody, a man or a woman that you're with, spending or controlling your money or your assets. I'll even give you one more screenshot. Interfering with your job. So everything in this article that I read, I'm not about to act like I'm an expert on financial abuse, but I think it's more than likely bullshit because I've never heard it, even though there's a lot of stuff out there. Like, it's not something you hear all the time. It's not something you hear all the time. So when it comes to abuse with finances, most of the examples that I've seen is somebody controlling money that you have earned. Let's read this again. And again, we're talking about hustle culture and women getting money and stuff like that. She says, is it hustle culture or the fact that people can use financial advantages to abuse people? I went to the internet to try and find how people can use financial advantages to abuse people. Like, I get it in a different type of relationship. Like, here's a good example, in my opinion. And I don't know if you would call it financial abuse because it's nothing really money about it. But if you go and you live with a woman and she gets mad, she can kick you out of her crib just because she's mad at you. And she could know that you have no place else to go. You don't know anybody who lives out here and you're going to have to go to the homeless shelter. I don't know if I would call that abuse. It depends on the specific situation and what it was for and how frequent it happens and things of that. I don't think I would call that abuse. So even if you flip it and make the man a woman or a woman like, I don't think that that's abuse. I don't think that that's abuse. So like, I would need a specific example of how you could use your financial advantage to abuse somebody. I don't get it. My brain can't really comprehend it because in the examples that were given, you have to be making some money and somebody has to be controlling it that is not you. Somebody has to be interfering with your income or your assets. And even if we just try to go back to, because this is what it really comes down to. It comes down to being financially dependent. And this is a different thing. If we go back to something like 1932 and women are not really in the workforce that heavy and stuff like that. They're not making as much money as men and stuff like that. And Susie married Johnny and Johnny is karate. Johnny just learned karate and he's karate kicking his wife all around the crib every day. She doesn't have the money to go somewhere else and do something. So I just look at that as like, okay, this is an abusive guy. And he's in a power position just because he's the only one working. So if that's what you mean, I don't think that he's using the finances in that situation to abuse anybody. And listen, there are women who make a lot of money who still get their ass whooped. So like, if a guy is abusive, he's abusive. And the money is not going to play too much of a part in it. It's just going to determine what moves you can make with this abuser. So using financial event, I don't get it. If you are watching this and you were triggered and stuff like that, but you are capable of forming a logical, explanation of how somebody can use their financial advantages to abuse somebody. Let me know, because in the like I've just proven logically that money can't stop them hands, man. Money can't stop them hands from doing what they do. It can hinder how you move, but even then, there are women who make a lot of money who could go out and get it. Like, we, financially, it's none of that shit that y'all talk about is going on. Let's move on though, because there's more of this comment to discuss. This happens to children frequently. See, this is stupid. This is fucking stupid. What is financial abuse to a child? Like, what are we talking about? To me, it just sounds like you don't want a man to take the lead or take charge or anything. Like, I don't get this, bro. Self-sufficiency is something most women seek so that they won't be abused or mistreated, just like a child who has been abused or ran away from home. I am going to be quite frank. I am pretty positive that this person is an idiot. I am pretty positive this person is an idiot. Let's just talk about self-sufficiency, man. Because I think the wrong words are being used and she's trying to paint a picture that is just not what it is. Because when you look at however a kid is raised, it's not financial leverage being used to abuse the kid. That's just super stupid. But if we focus on women having self-sufficiency, what does self-sufficiency do? It makes it to where you don't have to depend on a man. So just say that. Just say that you don't want to be in a position to depend on a man. Not that men are abusing you and whoa, they're using the finances in some way to abuse you. Like, it's broke motherfuckers who you like, bruh. I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. The financial leverage in these situations that you were talking about is not being used for the abuse. Bruh, even if you, oh my God, it's just, bruh, I'm moving on because this is fucking stupid. I haven't read this one either, so I'm bracing myself. A woman says, smells like intimidation. Women are forced to step up when men were forced down. Now everyone hates the outcome. Where is the drive at men used to have? Where is the hustle? And don't say it's not all, because that's evident. It ain't a bad thing women are business savvy. Why should that cause a divide? All right, so here we go again, back to the dissection table. We're not reading his response. But she says smells like intimidation. Again, that's just bullshit. Shame, insults, guilt, sign language, all that stuff. So she then says women were forced to step up when men were forced down. What is she talking about? World War II? Like, I don't, like, when were men forced down? Now everyone hates the outcome. Now, to some extent, that's true, because even women hate being in a position where they're the breadwinner, which we will get to a little bit later. But where is the drive at that men used to have? Where is the hustle? And don't say it's not all, because that's evident. Listen, I could get into a whole rant about the economy, about inflation, about ghost jobs, about ridiculously high tuition, about the debt that women have from going to these colleges and getting these degrees, yet they'll be in six figures of debt that they're going to have for the rest of their life that's just going to accumulate and stack up. We could talk about how women pretty much only go for white collar jobs and they have barely impacted the blue collar workforce. We could talk about that. We could talk about all types of stuff when it comes to what happened to the hustle and stuff. Like, we could talk about real estate right now, how crazy real estate is. We could talk about how, like I mentioned in a lot of my videos, when you graduated high school, you had two choices. You could go to college, which was extremely affordable. You could go and get a summer job or whatever, and you could have a job on the side and still pay for your tuition and not be blown out of the water. So you could do that, or you could go and you could work at the manufacturing plant, the steel mill, or whatever industry was in your city. You could go to that factory and you could have a job immediately that is going to be a career that you could have for the rest of your life. And you could pay for a house. You could pay to feed your 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 kids, because they used to do a lot of fucking back then. They used to have a lot of kids. Even the people who were in air quote poverty, they would have a lot of kids, but they would own a house. They would own a house. We're talking 50s, 40s, all of that stuff. Like even somewhere into the 60s and stuff like that. This is how things were. It's not that way anymore. You get a job now, guess what happens? Entry level position, you're still going to need a roommate. You still can't afford rent. You're still going to have to live a ridiculous lifestyle if you try to be self-sufficient off a Pizza Hut job or off a fucking factory job, whatever the case may be, because the factory space, the jobs, you could get some really good jobs, but there are also some really shit jobs depending on what you're manufacturing. So with that being said, we could go over the whole landscape. I just gave you like 18 things that I could do an hour-long video on. So if you want to talk about where the hustle is, it's not the hustle. It's not the hustle. It's very simple. Y'all all are fucking clones when it comes to women. Y'all do the same fucking jobs. Y'all either want to be a businesswoman, so you go for business and shit like that, or the majority of you just fill up fucking hospitals as RNs and stuff like that. And this is what it is. Like, the most of you are not becoming doctors and shit. Most of you are not becoming doctors. Yeah, there are a lot of female doctors, but if we're talking, it's way more nurses. It's way more, it's way more STNAs. It's way more, LPNs and all that. Every bitch get a job where she got to put on some scrubs, man. Y'all don't have no innovate, like the majority of women. They don't have no innovation. They don't really have no dreams. They don't really have no aspirations, things that they aiming for. They not doing shit that's really impacting society. And like when you look at the landscape of all the shit that's being created and stuff like that, the Steve Jobs shit, the fucking, just, you can't look at a company or too many companies and say, yo, a woman did some major innovation in the past 20 years. And this created like something that impacts us daily. Everything that you look at that, like social media, how I'm talking to you on YouTube, yeah, women were a part of it, but women were not at the head of it. And it's not because some man stepped in and said, that's enough for you. Let the big boys do the work. No, it's because that is not how they are built. That is not how they are built. Their ambition comes from a different place. Their ambition comes from a place of, I want independence. I want to not be dependent on a man. I want to have the power in my life. Again, when a woman gets money, they say, yo, I am independent. And they brag about it. They make songs about it. They hit the top fucking 10 charts on a billboard with it. And it's the anthem all over the world. That's what happens when women get money. When men get money, it is a completely different story. Men don't get money and think, wow, I don't have to be dependent on women anymore. The majority of men that you see everywhere all day, the majority of men on a planet, that's nothing that ever crosses their mind. The most that will cross their mind is, I don't got to be dependent on my parents. But even then, that's something that everybody goes through. So that's not unique. When men get money, what they think is, yes, I got some money. Now I can afford to, have a family. I can afford to support my wife and kids. I can do things to put us in better positions, or at least I can actually begin to pursue that because I'm in a position where I can take care of other people. Because at the end of the day, We are providers, and we are looked at to be providers. We are expected to be providers, and it's in us to provide. When it comes to a woman, it's in y'all to nurture, it's in y'all to do a bunch of shit. But providing for a man, that is not something that's in you. That is not something that most women want to do. Sure, you have pimps. Sure, you do have women who have somebody dropping them off at work, like baby boy Jody. Sure, there are women like that. In most cases, those are mentally damaged women, and they are getting done dirty by those guys. They're getting done dirty by those guys. That is not normal. That is not average. That is not the status quo. So just to recap that answer, or just wrap that answer up, she said, where's the hustle? It's not the hustle. It's that, again, like I mentioned, y'all are clones. Y'all all do the same shit because y'all are not really ambitious. You have no goals. You have nothing you're trying to build. You're just the same. So you're going to come in, you're going to do whatever like, you're just going to do some basic ass shit that you see everybody else doing because that's what y'all do for the most part. And y'all don't care how much debt you get or nothing like that. You're just going to do it because to y'all, it's the thing to do. When men look at it, we look at the whole landscape of everything. I knew college was some bullshit a long time ago. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I could do a whole hour-long video just on that. But when you ask where the hustle has went, the hustle hasn't went anywhere. It's not that guys don't want to work. Yeah, you could say that guys are unemployed and shit, but there's a reason for that. And that is because the gig economy exists, but also a lot of these jobs are putting out ghost jobs. So it's hard to get a job for a lot of people. Even then, a lot of the wages are dog shit. I could go all around the world on that. But again, it is not the hustle that is missing as far as guys. What is missing is things are not the way that they're supposed to be. If you go into a job, you should automatically be in a position within the society that you're in to be a provider to some degree. You should not be dedicating 40 hours to a place and then come out with less than enough to fill your fridge, pay the rent, and support your family. Nonetheless, yourself. Put gas in your car, pay all your other bills. You should be able to do that with the check that you get from any job that you get. But when it comes to the majority, just a tremendous amount of the jobs out here, they do not put you in that position. At one point in history, yeah, you automatically were put in that position with the jobs that you got. But at this point in history, right now, the present, it is absolutely horrible. It is absolute. So it was never to where, oh, these guys out here just had amazing hustle and they went and got degrees and learned, crazy ass skills so that they could make up. No, 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 no. They were fucking pulling levers and pressing buttons, man. They were pulling levers and pressing buttons and pushing shit. That's what they were doing. And they didn't have to go get a fucking CDL or no crazy shit like that. And even getting a CDL is not crazy, but listen, it just wasn't as difficult as it is now to get in a position where you can become a provider. So let's get that out the way. Now let's go to the last part. She says, why should that cause a divide? I love things like this because it shows women don't know themselves. The reason it causes a divide is because you just said in your shit, y'all stepped up and we got pushed down. Y'all still, even when you get money and you get your independence, you still want a man, which is fine because biologically, that's fine. Like we want women. It is what it is. But what you want is a guy that is better than you. You want a guy that is better than you. And one thing that is going to determine that in your eyes, not in my eyes, not in another man's, but in your eyes, because you are the qualifier in this situation. What is going to determine that is if he makes more money than you, because what do you want? You want a man that's supposed to fulfill his manly duty which is providing. You still, even when you get all that fucking money, even when you get on Facebook and say shit, it sounds like intimidation. You don't want a guy that makes significantly less than you. You don't want a guy that makes a little bit less than you. You want a guy that at least makes as much as you. And some people don't even want that. Some chicks want a guy that makes more than them. Now they'll get on Facebook, they'll go places and say, oh, that don't matter, that don't matter, that don't matter. And then get with these guys. They may get married. And then when the divorce comes, they have all to, oh man, he was insecure about the finances. Da, 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 da. It's always the guy. You always point the finger at the guy. It's always him because the women they never do shit wrong. So when they telling the story, he was insecure about the finances. Da, 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 da. Hey, I know guys. I know people. I know a guy whose mom was, when she became a breadwinner, she started disrespecting the man. I know somebody else who was a breadwinner for a short amount of time. I've mentioned before, the guy was a breadwinner. He got knocked out of his position. She became a breadwinner. He got back to being a breadwinner eventually. And guess what? The respect didn't come back when he got back to being a breadwinner. They are not together anymore. Are there some women that are the exception to the rule? Yes. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, the majority are the same when it comes to this. So we're going to wrap it up there. Let me know your thoughts. I am gone.